Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Humankind Open Dev. This is going to be the Towers of Babylon scenario. If you also want to go ahead and try the game, you can go to humankind.game and sign up for the Open Dev thing if you want to try it out yourself. I'm super excited for this game, so I'm very happy that the developers have let me have a look at this and also share it with you guys. I'm going to just be playing it and giving you my thoughts as you play. This is the Tower of Babylon scenario, and the goal is to basically, kind of play around with the early game systems, and then at the end you'll be giving a survey. We start off in a fairly lush area of the map. We start off with a little unit here, a pair of scouts in a group. I'm going to go ahead and split these guys up because I think they're more effective individually because you can cover more of the map. And I'll go ahead and grab this little discovery with this scout right here. Found some animal remains and got ourselves a little bit of science that we can, of course, use to get some technology here. I did play through this scenario one time just to have a better grasp of what's going on, and I can kind of talk about what's going on. So this is the tech button down here, and it'll unlock your progress. See here we have multiple tech selections here, calendar, domestication, carpentry, and city defense. Carpentry gives you the ability to clear forests as well as build lumber yards, which will give you +1 industry on exploitation and access to the archer unit. The +1 industry on exploitation is, if you look at this map here, you can see the city. Actually, it's easier if I click on the city. You can see the city is sort of just this central piece here, and then it exploits any territory around it. And so the lumberyard would give me +1 industry on every tile that already has an industry, which is pretty cool. It's a very powerful building. And we have, citizen management up here. I really love the UI, by the way. It feels very nice. And you can choose some different policies. You can say economic exports, which will focus on production, then gold, then stability, food, and science. You can focus on public control, which will focus on food and stability. And you have different sorts of things. You also have the expert policy, which lets you set your own priorities. And then, of course, you can always, if you want, micromanage it yourself and move your citizens around. A couple of things I want to talk about. There's different types of growth. So, for example, if I take this guy off of here, you can see because we only have a food output of 9 without working this food tile, we actually don't get any growth. And your growth is kind of interesting because there's only 2 types of growth. There's regular growth and super growth. And so the total amount of food you produce doesn't really matter as long as you hit these thresholds. So between 10 and 50 food, you get regular growth, which means you grow population every 8 turns. And then between 50 and then anything above 50, you'll grow twice as quick, which is 1 population every 4 turns. That's kind of give you an overview of this. And then production is pretty straightforward. This is industry. It helps you build things over here in the building menu, like units, like, what are these called again? I think they're called... Oh God, what are they called? These are infrastructures, which are like city-wide projects, and these are like your districts that you can build. I forget what they call them. The quarters or something? Extensions, that's the word, extensions. Yeah, you can build extensions here. So, for example, we have the choice of the astronomy house, which will give us +2 food per researcher, and will also give us +1 science per adjacent farmer's quarter, and +1 researcher slot. So you can see I only have 2 researcher slots on the baseline city, but if I build this, I could have 3 researchers, and it would also give me food. I kind of like the idea of building the astronomy house. I'm going to kind of just explore the game systems, and getting 2 food from my guys would be cool. So if I were to place this here, it would get me 6 food. I think that says 1 production. I'm not sure where that production is coming from, but if I build this here, I would get 6 food from completing that, and I can choose then to move my population around if I move it to industry. It won't actually speed up how quickly I get it. If I move it to money, it gives me a little bit more cash. I could expand more easily. I might go the cash route here, although I do like the idea of growth. I think I'm going to go cash here because that literally doubles my money, and I'll talk about why cash is so good. Cash is like the resource you use to actually expand your empire. So I'm going to be looking for places to put outposts to expand the size of my city, grab new territory, all that jazz. So that's why I kind of like to have a little bit of extra gold early game. I think it's quite valuable, that little chunk of gold. Each unit has a certain number of move actions, and they have special abilities. For example, the scouts are lightly armored troops. They have about 13 combat strength, 4 movement, and 1 attack, I think it is. A range of 1. I think that's what that says there. Yeah, attack range of 1. And you can do numerous things with them. They are melees, they're close combat, they're useful for protecting ranged units from cavalry, and they are pathfinders, so they ignore movement penalties from forest, which is very helpful because it allows them to explore the map more efficiently. Tech-wise, let's see, I could get a research quarter. I'm already playing Babylon, so I don't think that's super important. I could go for granary, which would give me +1 food per number of territories. That seems pretty valuable. Lumber yards would give me a lot of production. Yeah, I think I'm going to go calendar here for the granary, although production is king, so maybe we'll go carpentry. Get that resource exploitation up and running. Go ahead and end our turn. Ooh, we got our first sighting of some deer as well over here. Those are like little neutral mobs. They're kind of like the barbarians of Humankind, if you play some of their games. Go ahead and pick up this as well. Another 5 sites, which is definitely helpful. And we actually found a sanctuary as well. And the interesting thing about sanctuaries is you can pillage them. These are basically like barbarian encampments. They spawn units. But I think in the very early game, it's basically wildlife that you spawn, like in the ancient era. And you can pillage these for money, which would be helpful for expanding. Speaking of expanding, it's probably a good idea to do that soon. Let's do a little bit more exploration with these guys. So if I look at this claim territory button, you can see I can place an outpost and it'll tell me what I'll actually get from the tiles for building it here. So if I built it here, I would get 2 food, 1 production, 1 production. I would get all these things. I'd like to find a slightly better place, so we'll hold off on building an outpost for this turn. Actually, I totally should have built an outpost in this area. In fact, I might come back here and pop it down somewhere here, for example. Ooh, a mammoth just spawned from this sanctuary. Gotta watch out for that. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and ransack this. That will destroy this, stop it spawning units, and give me 22 gold, which will help me expand a little bit more. Explore a little bit more over here. This looks like a great spot for a city. It'll give me, or an extension rather, or not the extension, sorry, a outpost, because it'll claim me a decent chunk of food and production right here. And then I can obviously kind of expand from this. I'll show you how that works later on. So I'll go ahead and build myself an outpost. Now the outpost will take 2 turns to come online, and you can rush that with money. But, you know, early game I'm probably going to just wait. But now if I zoom out, you can see that this territory actually belongs to me, and this little outpost acts as sort of the precursor to a city. I could fight the mammoths. We're evenly matched, so I would probably need high ground or good RNG on my side to take them on. And I don't think I have any high ground. And I'm not sure about relying on RNG to win fights. Ooh, another curiosity. Let's grab that one. Another animal remains. And we found even more over here, so let's continue on that way. You always want to be on the eye out for these little curiosities. I could, if I want to, also rush the astronomy house, but I'm going to let that kind of chug away on its own. Oh, we found some deer who I could also fight, but those are quite a bit stronger, and I would also have to fight the mammoth, because I'm pretty sure they reinforce each other. Let's go take out this sanctuary as well, and maybe come back and build this little thing right there. Could I build an outpost here? They do get more expensive for each one that you've built, so I might hold off on that. But this thing is now fully finished, and I can do 2 things with this. I can I can do 3 things with it. You can see here, this is a thing explaining outpost management. But for example, if I decided that this wasn't actually a very good spot, I could move it over here if I wanted more production. I could move it down here if I wanted more food, for example. I'm pretty happy with the spot that it's in, because it'll open up some pretty good options for me where it is, and I'll explain how that works later. So I could turn this into a city, which would cost me about 100 gold, and, you know, give me a boost to, you know, influence, food, production, money, all that sort of jazz, and it would allow me to build more districts and stuff like that. The other thing that I can do is I can come in and attach this little chunk of territory to my city, and what this will do is it'll turn this into a district, basically, so, or an extension rather. So if I go ahead and attach that to my city, now it's actually working these tiles, and all of these yields are now added to my capital. So this is kind of like how the game addresses tall versus wide. So if you sort of make your cities wider, they're technically taller, right? Because a single city is producing more resources. And now that I actually own this thing, I can actually use it to build districts off of. So if I wanted another one of these astronomy houses, I could build it right here and get even more food and all that sort of jazz. And you could build things like farmer districts, and they get different adjacencies. I could put a farmer district right here. I could put it, you know, over there, all that sort of jazz. I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and move this guy to here, because I don't quite need as much money now that I've expanded. And by moving him here, I'll actually finish that astronomy house in 1 turn, and then I'll be able to work scientist slots and get myself extra food for my researchers, which is really, really cool. Grab ourselves another discovery. We discovered carpentry. Well, the extra science finished it off for us, so now we can research something else. I could pick up harbors. Those are really interesting because they give you access to fisheries, and these fish tiles, if I click on the yields, you can see they have various yields. For example, here is a coral reef that gives you food and science. And then the rest of these just kind of give you a bit of science, or a bit of food. So harbors are like a good way to grow your city if you don't have a lot of growth tiles within range. I have pretty good growth, so I'm not too worried about that. The other really cool thing about harbors is it's actually, you can like set them to be where you spawn units. Let's go for calendar, because these infrastructures, they scale off the number of territories. And territories are these like little blocks of the map. You can kind of see here the way they're blocked out. So my capital city would have 2 territories, so it would get 10 food from the granary. So let's go ahead and get to work on calendar. Urgent affairs require your attention. So this is part of the random event system in the game, which I think is really, really cool. I love this part of the game. I'm a big fan of seeing more games take this kind of a style. We've seen Old World do stuff like this. The Paradox games do this heavily as well, where you get like a random event and you have a couple of choices. And I feel like the choices in this game are a lot more impactful and a lot more difficult than perhaps I've seen the implementation in some games. So we can, a melody for every occasion. Basically, it's a event about musicians, and we can choose to muster, and that will give us +5 money for I think 3 turns and +2 science for 3 turns, or we can go for overproductive, which would give us 10 industry but cost us 60 money, and we don't quite have the 60 money, so I'm going to go ahead and take the money and science. You can see there now we're getting a little bit of extra cash. Let's also ransack this for a little bit more money as well. Yoink. I might look into settling a city around here next turn when I have the cash. Because if I look at the yields, the Fidzi, if anyone who's played like Endless Legends, all these numbers and stuff will look very, very familiar with the sort of way that they display how food and production and all that sort of jazz works. But I'm thinking settling on this river would be good. It's very productive and might be a good spot for a city. Speaking of cities, my city is now idle. And so I think if I go ahead and work a science slot now, I will actually get food from that. So if I look at my food output, it's 27. And then if I place a guy on the science slot, it'll be 30. So that's really interesting. The interesting question I have is, do these stack? But I could also, if I wanted to, these guys get +2 science per adjacent farmer's quarter. So I could, if I wanted to, build another farmer's quarter, get a little bit of extra food and a little bit of extra science, and try to continue to grow the city really, really tall. Or I could get some archers. And I really like the idea of getting like an archer and grouping them up with my scouts. So we'll grab ourselves a pair of archers to go explore the world. Use them to fight off the mammoths and stuff like that. Although that said, if I'm going to do that, maybe it would be good to get city defense to be able to get warriors as well. I think that's actually the right move, because an archer and a warrior together can fight a lot of stuff. Now, we do only get 30 turns to kind of play around with the game, but we can play around it multiple times if you want. But I'll probably just run through this once to give you an idea of how the game works. All right, let's go ahead and pick up this curiosity. I don't want to fight these mammoths with my scout. A little bit of gold, excellent. That's actually really, really damn good. It's like a whole turn's worth of gold. I have found the rewards from exploring a little bit underwhelming, but they're not terrible. Yeah, let's go ahead and settle right here. It's like right next to a mountain. I like this like lush area. And this will grow up in a few turns, and I'll be able to turn it into a city. I'm a big fan of the UI for this game. So far, at least the first impression. That it was honestly one of my biggest complaints about Endless Legend is that Endless Space is the UI kind of felt a little bit wonky to me, but this feels very natural. Like every piece of information kind of appears where I want it to. Everything is accessible, and it all makes sense to me. I think that's partially because I'm a little bit more experienced with these games, the sort of Amplitude Studio games as well. That's kind of helping a little bit. We found some more deer. I don't think I can take those guys on right now, so I'll just try to like run away from them. Right, we have unlocked city defense as our technology, which will give us access to palisades. That'll give fortification to the city as well as a fortification level. And we also access warriors, who are a much stronger early game unit who lack the Pathfinder ability. Let's grab ourselves a warrior in the city. It'll take about 3 turns. Oh, we have an event in the city too. Oh, like all the little pop-ups that happen here, like idle armies, urgent affairs require your attention, melody for every occasion 2. We get Jingle Jangle, which is music is not some sacred art for the few. Everyone must be free to pursue their talents. So I'm not sure what the consequences of this are, but we get some little bit of flavor text and all that sort of jazz that I really appreciate. Now the cool thing is I'm pretty sure your archers can also explore curiosities and fight and stuff like that, no problem. So getting more units early is always a good investment, I feel like. Oh, we actually managed to find a goodie hut that gave us warriors, and I think I'm going to combine these guys together so I can start fighting, because if you fight you get gold from killing things, and that'll help me expand my empire just that little bit quicker. This outpost is finished, and you can actually improve resources inside outposts. I could build an artisan quarter on this coffee deposit if I wanted to, or I could upgrade it to a city. I think I'll probably just upgrade it to a city and build that naturally. But, you know, there's different ways you can sort of go about expanding your empire, which I really, really appreciate. Found a ruined shrine. I think also, what is this? Is that the Great Barrier Reef? It is. You got a little bit of science for discovering that, I think. It's the Great Blue Hole, sorry. If we hover over this, it'll tell us what it does. Yeah, there you go. It gives you +2 food. All manner of sea creatures stalk the hole's uncharted depth, from sharks to gobies to angelfish. This will, if you have this inside your city, it'll give you +5 influence per natural wonder, +10 stability per natural wonder on settlement, and +10 money per natural wonder on settlement, which is really, really cool. I'm a big fan of natural wonders in games. Well, now that we have unlocked warriors, it's probably a good idea to consider upgrading. We could unlock masonry, which would give us forced labor, which allows us to use our population like chopping, which is actually kind of funny because I was playing a bit of Civ 4 recently, just kind of screwing around with the game, and that has that slavery, forced labor, chopping mechanic. So this is going to be very familiar to anyone who's played Civ 4. Yeah, let's unlock bronze working, because I do see that we have some copper over here, and that'll let us get that strategic resource online and maybe get one of our unique units, the Sabu Sakasti, which is a very, very strong unit that is much stronger when it's standing on a friendly extension, which is one of these little districts. We can actually build up to 3 districts here. We have 2 extensions, and we can build up to 6. I think that's based on population and also the number of territories that you own. I'm pretty sure this counts as an extension, this does, and so does this. Ooh, that's a lot of deer. That's a lot of deer. Oh my goodness. I'm pretty sure archers receive a pretty big penalty to their combat strength when they're adjacent to a unit, so I'm just going to hold off for a turn until I actually have those warriors, and then I'll be able to fight more effectively. Yeah, I think it's time we fought these mammoths. Let's burn down another sanctuary. That'll give me enough money next turn to be able to actually upgrade this into another city. I could, if I wanted to, also come in here and attach this to the city for 100 gold. But it's also 100 gold to turn this into a city. So I feel like more cities, like there's like a pretty simple calculation there to make it 100 gold to add another region, or another territory rather. Bit of an awkward positioning for me to fight these deer. I'll tell you what, I'll try and get my units grouped up next turn and then attack one of them. Speaking of attacking, let's fight these mammoths. I'm going to try to position myself strategically, because the really cool thing is, you see that grey area? That represents the battlescape. So depending on the angle that you attack an enemy unit from, like if I attack from here, you can see the battlescape is different. But if I attack from this northern side, I'll have these 2 high grounds, and they'll only have 1 high ground to fight back. So one of their units, if they want to participate in combat, is going to have to be on low ground. So this seems like a very good angle of attack. And you can see here, when you initiate a battle, you can see the rough strength of your units, and it'll say, oh, your side is roughly a little bit stronger. I'm going to position my scouts and warriors on the high ground so that we can double attack them on the high ground. And it looks like they actually moved onto the low ground, which is fantastic, because what I could actually do here is get a very, very strong attack with both of my units by flanking them. And here's the thing that I really, really appreciate about this. I kind of mentioned this in my other Humankind video, is they changed the combat system from their Endless Legend and Endless Space games and made it much more sort of traditional, in that you're actually fighting a little battle on the map, which I really, really enjoy. You can see here, we are getting a +4 combat strength modifier from being on the high ground, which means we'll do somewhere between 60 and 70% of their health as damage. And we'll only take 5 to 10 back. You can see we took 8, we did 65. And then I'll be able to kill them off right here. It's a pretty good chance of a death, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no. Yeah, no, it's a definite kill. Lovely. So we managed, even though these are relatively strong mammoth units, because we used the high ground to our advantage, we were able to take them on fairly easily. Now this next guy is going to be on equal ground to us, so we're not going to get the high ground bonus anymore. But that's not important because there's only one of him and we outnumber him. So we can do a chunk of damage. You do take a little bit of damage back. That's not a big deal, especially because he's damaged now. We actually have a combat strength bonus. We have 2 more combat strength. You can see there he's heavily damaged and should be a pretty easy kill. Now the cool thing about mammoths is when you kill them, you get 80 gold. You get 40 gold per mammoth per kill, which is really, really cool. So we just picked up a big chunk of gold from killing those units. So definitely I feel like certain things feel very rewarding. And it'll take about 3 turns for this to turn into a city. We could use that gold that we just picked up. Kabam. And this in 3 turns will become a city. So in terms of like how the game feels right now to me, I definitely say it feels very, very nice. Everything feels like, even just like choosing where I want to walk this guy, everything like the terrain feels very obvious. Like the height map, you can kind of see there's like terrain you can walk up and down. Like for example, you can see here, I can walk to any 3 of these tiles from this little oasis, but I can't walk to these 2 because there's sort of a rocky cliff. And that's maybe a little bit more obvious here. I can walk to there, but I can't walk to there because the height difference between those 2. And that makes the sort of strategic map very, very interesting in terms of like positioning of stuff, like where you want to put stuff, because it's going to have impact on combat. It's going to have impact on, you know, scouting and defense, all that sort of jazz. Now, we got our warrior in Babylon, and I would like a granary because that would help me grow faster if I could get up to 50 food per turn. I also like tanneries because that's going to let me get a bit more cash, and it's only a 1-turn build for 2 gold per territory, which is 4 gold in the city. And if I expand it again, that would be pretty damn good as well. I might even consider expanding to this copper area because there's a luxury in there too, which will help my stability. And your stability goes down, I think, the more just stuff you have in your city, like more population, more expansions, all that jazz. But yeah, that was a pretty fun turn. About a third of the way through this little thing, we unlock bronze working, which gives us access to copper. We can also build castles. We'll talk about those. The forge, which gives us +1 industry on maker's quarters and +1 industry on maker's quarters per adjacent maker's quarter. So if you build a bunch of these all together, if you built like a triangle of these, that could be upwards of what, 3, 6, 8, 9, 12 production if you build 3 of those in like a little triangle, which is pretty damn powerful, not even counting all the tiles that they will actually exploit. I'll show you how that works. If I built a maker's quarter here, right? It gets +1 industry and +1 industry per adjacent maker's quarter. So this forge basically doubles how powerful the maker's quarter is in terms of being like an internal district. +9 production actually seems pretty good to me for 5 turns. Or I could get +4 food for number of territories, which would be 8 food right now, potentially 12 down the line. So I'll go ahead and pick up the millstone because that'll get me really, really close to getting the super growth. Let's join our warriors and archers together and finally fight these deer. This is going to be a much easier fight, but it'll give me a chance to show you ranged and melee units. So we'll fight them here. And there is some high ground issues, so I'm going to position my units right here and here. The warrior will prevent the deer from getting onto the archer's high ground, and if the deer attack the archer in melee, they'll be attacking up ground. So I feel like this is a really good positioning for me. The cool thing about archers is they actually have ranged attacks, which means they don't take counter attacks and they can attack from afar, which is really, really cool. Let's go ahead and shoot the deer. Do a huge amount of damage to them. And then finish them off with our warriors. Now, deer aren't quite as rewarding to kill as mammoths. I think they only give 10 gold each. But that's still a pretty respectable amount of rewards for like engaging in, you know, combat. Especially since I'm pretty sure your units can actually gain veterancy in this game, which increases the combat strength of them. So if you're running around fighting a bunch, you can actually get very, very well, well experienced troops who will be extremely good veterans. Oh, they actually can attack in melee, which is cool. They just take, they have a weaker combat strength in melee, which is interesting, like when they're being attacked in melee. There we go, kill the deer. That'll be the end of the combat, and I'll pick up 20 gold for my trouble. I think engaging in combat does use up all your moves, which kind of sucks because I would like to get over here and build this outpost, but, you know, there's no rush. I mean, technically there is a rush because I'm running out of time to play this little thing. I would love to fight those deer, but I don't have the... I only have a single scout here who can't really take on deer, a pair of deer on his own. He can take on a single deer, no problem, but a pair of deer is probably just out of his reach. I think I'm going to do a similar thing and just keep fighting, because it feels very rewarding to be doing a bit of fighting. My scout is a little bit hurt, so I might try to position him more defensively and use my warrior more aggressively, I think. Just have him sit there on a uphill position so the deer have to run all the way around to get to him, and use my warrior to kind of run interference. Yeah, look at that. Like, an uphill warrior will pretty much instantaneously kill a deer. Look at that damage roll. God damn. Yeah, and then we'll just kill him with the scout, because the scout won't take a huge amount of damage. Brilliant. And then this deer comes out of nowhere from downtown to fight my warrior. I think that counts. I don't know if there's like a flanking mechanic where they don't take damage back, but sometimes my units do damage when they're attacked and sometimes they don't, and I'm not sure how that works. We'll be able to kill these deer pretty easily. And pick up ourselves another 20 gold for that combat. Alright, tech-wise, I have a good few choices again. See, if I had a lot of rivers, I would maybe go for flood irrigation. That's pretty good as well. Stability for territories. And feast seems like interesting as well. Fishery would be good if I wanted to go like a harbor-based. Now these things like standing army, I'm never going to get a chance to build these because they're like super late into the game. But I might go ahead and just pick up domestication here to get animal barns. And that'll also allow me to exploit horses if I do find any. Since this is just a single deer, I'm going to send my archer to go and build the outpost over here for me. Also pick up a couple of these little discoveries. But I'll place an outpost right here to grab this terrain. This is going to help me reach my growth potential in my capital. It'll take a couple turns for that to grow, but that ain't no big deal. And I'll see if I can actually do an auto combat on this. Is that possible? Is there an auto combat button? I don't know if there is. Maybe I'm wrong. At the very least, I will be able to attack this deer from the high ground and very easily kill him. I think this is probably the most important thing for me, was the combat system. And again, I talked about this again in my previous video, but you can see there my unit attacked back, by the way, and auto-killed the guy there. But the combat system was like the most important thing for me. And the game also, since the last time I played it, I did get a chance to play this before. It feels a little bit smoother and a little bit less buggy. There was a couple of UI issues that I ran into, which, you know, is kind of to be expected. But I'm going to bring these guys back to heal, because they're healing way too slow outside my territory. So I'll bring them over here inside my territory and let them heal up. Let's grab ourselves another discovery. Actually, another pair of discoveries. A little bit of extra gold. These don't feel that impactful past the early game, like 5 signs, 10 gold. Definitely something I would maybe encourage the developers to rethink a little bit about the rewards from those. Maybe like tone down the number of them and ramp up the amount they give you or something like that. Because each individual one, it feels like you're getting a lot of very small buffs, which it doesn't feel super amazing to me. But overall, I'm really enjoying this so far. I could grab the granary. I could build another extension. I kind of like the idea of, since we're planning on annexing this territory, I should hit my growth milestone soon. If I put... See, now I'm curious. This is 39 growth in here. This would go to 34. And if I put in another researcher, it's also 36. Hold on. 34. 32. So, these do just give you +2 food from all of your researchers. Now, I'm curious, if I build another one of those, will that actually stack and give me +4 for my researchers? So I'm very curious about that. Let me try out these abilities, kind of explore the mechanics. It'll take about 5 turns to build. Could I speed that up? I don't need the extra food or science right now. So if I were to grab 2 of these pops and slap them in here, it would shave a turn off, which just seems good to me. Alright, we just got domestication, which gives us access to the horse resource. I don't think I've seen one. Ah, and the first calendar. The invention of the calendar heralded a glorious day in the Empire's history. Now the 2 major cities and numerous farming affairs needed to be harmonized across land, it is time to standardize the calendar. Traders must have an easy means of synchronizing their activities. By what means do you wish to track the days? We can do a solar calendar or a lunar calendar. I like the idea of doing a lunar calendar. Seems a little bit more interesting to me. And now we have another city, but it's unadministered, meaning the production is diminished. So if I look in here, does I'm not sure where it says the production is I'm not sure where it says the production is diminished. It suffers from several malices. Let's just keep an eye on these numbers to see how they change when I assign one. Yeah, it looks like you just get a little bit more yields from having a administrator. And I assume these are probably limited by technology or civics or some kind of laws and stuff like that are in the game. But Borsippa, I think the first thing I'm going to do in Borsippa is pick up this luxury, because that'll be worth 1 production per turn and 4 gold. In terms of growth, the city won't grow. Is that important to me? Like, I would like to grow this city, but I feel like money is super valuable. Like, I could get a population 8 turns by working this, or I could get more territory a little bit quicker by working money. So I feel like money is kind of really good in the early game. So, like, growth is obviously super amazing, but I feel like if you're not hitting that super growth, it's okay to, like, skip it in the very, very early stage of the city. That's kind of my impression so far. I don't know if, like, if anything I'm saying is correct. These guys are now healing up, which is fantastic. Alright, so the sleep until healed mechanic isn't implemented. I'm going to try out, actually, if I go over to these guys, I'm going to try turning on auto explore with them and see how they manage on their own. Tech wise, we could pick up horsemanship if we wanted to go for scout cavalry, which seemed pretty powerful to me. Let's go for masonry. Yeah, I think masonry seems reasonable. Yeah, I like masonry. Allow me to build the stoneworks, which will increase my production on mountains and strategic resources, as well as giving me access to the watchtower, which is a type of outpost building, I think, right? Or I'm not sure what it is. Oh no, it looks like it might be an infrastructure, actually. That'll just boost the vision of all your stuff. I'll zoom in here so you can kind of see the animations for when units attack. Let's go ahead and kill that. I think they're pretty impressive. Like, you're not going to be viewing them that close, so they don't have to be, like, amazing or perfectly choreographed, but, like, they're decent enough to get the point across without looking clunky. So I think they've managed to do their job there. Let's go ahead and join up this new outpost to my capital, which will again start exploiting and will put me into the super growth phase, which is exactly what I was hoping for. Also, I should pop you two guys into production to speed this up ever so slightly. I could pay money to boost this. What's going on here? Ah, parsimonious. So this is going away in 1 turn. I think this is to do with that music festival thing that popped up for my save. End the turn and see what develops. There's masonry. Nothing too important there. Maybe I'll show off the forced labor mechanic. I suppose I'll just pick up fishing to be able to show off harbors. Also, there's a special ability that, like, each civ gets one of these abilities, and the Babylonians one is science mode, where basically all of the production and money that the city produces is converted into, into science. I'll show that off next turn when we finish this quarter. Continuing to explore, picking up all these curiosities. Found another sanctuary that we can take on. How are you doing, little auto explorer? He's actually picking stuff up for me, which makes me very happy. Found some more deer. They're going to have the high ground though, which is a little bit awkward. I think I can still win this if I position correctly. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Because if we can take on this deer first, then they won't be able to use their high ground too heavily in their advantage next turn of the battle. Get rid of that deer. Get out of here, deer. I do love that you're kind of spending your early game fighting a lot of wildlife and stuff, and there's not actual barbarians. Kind of gives it that feel of Civ 4 and stuff like that, where you were going around, you know, fighting tigers and stuff. Or fighting lions, rather. So they took a counterattack there. I'm really not sure how that works. Is it because I'm now flanking him that I don't take damage? I'm not sure how that works. I mean, I was flanking him there, but I still took damage, so I think that's a mechanic that is just a little bit opaque right now that I haven't been able to figure out. But we did pick up the luxury resource, and the cool thing about the luxury resource is that it acts like a thing that you can build stuff off of if you want to. So if I was like, oh, you know what, I want to exploit all this production here, I can pop down a, you know, maker's quarter right there. I get a massive amount of production in this city, which I think is what I'm going to do. Oh, cool, coffee. So access to coffee gives me +2 food and +5 stability in all my cities. Oh, well, I definitely want to get my luxuries online. You can see here, though, the city's stability is going down heavily. I think that has to do with the fact that it's been expanded. So that's going to be an important thing to keep track of. We'll need to get some of these commons quarters. That'll give you a bit of stability and influence and all that sort of jazz. There's fishing, giving us access to the fishery and the harbour. The harbour is just a extension that you can build on water, and it'll exploit the water tile, so it'll get me a bit of food, a bit of mostly food. It'll also give me a little bit of what you call it, stability from building it. I think, yeah, you get a little bit of stability for building it, which is cool. Now, because I have these two cities linked, or these two territories linked, I can actually pick wherever I want for my harbour. I'm not sure where that +9 is coming from, but if I were to place it here, for example, I think that would be like a bunch of food. If I placed it here, that would be a +10, +10. Like, so you can kind of link territories together. I feel like the puzzle of city management is going to be absolutely out of this world for this game because the sheer number of choices. Let's get this salt online. That'll give me food and stability. I'll hold off on using the population chop. I'll just buy out with money. If you can buy things out with money, that'll finish them instantaneously, and now we have access to salt. It's giving me a bit of stability and a little bit of food in this city. I don't think these cities have road connections yet, so I don't think they're actually sharing luxuries. I'm not even sure if that's a thing in the game. But I could, for example, if I wanted to get this copper mine online as well, and also purchase it out, and then I'm getting the production and science from that. And the cool thing about strategic resources is, if I remember correctly, they give boosts to adjacent makers' quarters. So like if I wanted to make a maker's quarter in this area, I could be like, well, you know, I'm getting +9 production by placing it here. But I could also place it here adjacent to the luxury and get +11. So you have a lot of tools at your disposal to sort of explore where and when you want to build things and why. So for example, I could build a maker's quarter over here and get somewhere between, you know, 2, 4 production. Or I could place it here and get 13 from working this mountain on all these tiles. And that's just like a really cool mechanic to me, is that your city gets really, really unstacked and it starts to occupy huge portions of the territory. I also really like that like certain districts only exploit food. Like if we look at the actual yields of this tile, right here you can see there's food and production, but the farmer's quarter only exploits food. So I actually don't get the production from that tile, and I think it erases any production that's underneath it. And it's the same thing with the maker's quarter. It only exploits nearby production. So even though there is food on these tiles, I'm not going to get access to any of it by using the maker's quarter. And it's a similar sort of thing for the science district. Now, out of curiosity, if I'm making 65 food, right, and I put one of these guys into the science thing, I'm making 70 food. So these do actually stack, which means you could run a food economy exclusively off of the astronomy house. That's really, really powerful. I really, really, really like. This is one of the things I got the impression from the first test game that we managed to play, is that each like civilization ability felt really, really impactful, and like it was like truly game changing. Is there a way to see my total science per turn? I don't think there is, but I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to activate the science mode. You can see now we're making 104 science per turn. Which means if I come back here, all of these techs are like super cheap. So I can like crush out like standing army, which was going to take 13 turns if you remember, in 4 now. Let's grab standing army because that'll give us access to iron, which is interesting. Ah, lovely. My little auto scout is continuing to find stuff for me. So I always appreciate it when auto scouts are relatively intelligent in games and like manage to not get themselves killed, because it feels like every auto explorer feature in a game is basically like a suicide button for your scouting units. It's like, go find like the most dangerous enemy on the map and get yourself killed to it. Let's ransack another sanctuary. I'm kind of tempted to build an outpost in here and maybe expand Borsippa. I don't have any more administrators, so I'm not sure if I would be able to expand city-wise again, but I could definitely start doing more outpost stuff in Borsippa. It's just a single deer, so I don't need both my units to fight this. No, stop! I misclicked. Oh, that feels really bad. I misclicked with my unit, and he did like this weird walking thing. Alright, so there's the deer. We should be able to fight them, no problem. Do a bit of damage with my archers first to soften them up. So my warrior should be able to get a clean kill. It's like the main... Oh, was that like a little bit of... No, it wasn't. I thought I was taking like a bit of collateral damage from shooting over my unit, but I was mistaken there. Right, so that's the deer dealt with. Can I go ahead and build myself an outpost? Where would I want it? I feel like here's pretty good, although here has a lot of production. Could I get you to build that? 75 gold for an outpost. Seems reasonable. Oh, my unit's got veterancy. That's amazing. So with your armies, at least one of your units is considered a veteran, indicated by the stars on its illustration. There are 3 levels of veterancy, and each adds a combat strength bonus to the unit. The veterancy of a unit is increased by defeating other units. When upgrading a unit, the veterancy is retained. Okay, that's really, really powerful. So early game investment into units is super useful. So I'm pretty sure this unit now has... Oh, that's cool as well. So this unit has +1 combat strength, which, you know, is actually pretty significant in this game. If you consider that being uphill gives you +4. So it's like a quarter of the uphill bonus at all times, which is going to help them on the offense and the defense. And the other really cool thing is you can actually rename your units once they get a veterancy. So that's pretty cool. This will be the Big Spuds. See here, the scouts can't be renamed because they don't have enough veterancy, but I was able to rename the warrior. I do want to be very, very clear. The game is super early. This is not representative of the final game. I don't know if I said that at the start. I'll probably have to like edit in a thing where I do say that. But that's like super important that we don't like look at this and say this is what the final game is going to look like. This is going to give us ideas of what the final game could look like. So we have the flooded lands. We could gamble, leave it up to fate, or we could spend money. I'm going to gamble, see what the negative event could be for building a city on floodplains. Grab ourselves a curiosity with 10 signs inside it. We actually did find horses over here. And are you finished? No, you'll be finished next turn. We'll be able to attach you to Borsippa. Oh, I found some deer. It's a bit of an awkward positioning, but I'll give them a fight. Pretty sure if I place my warrior here and my scout here, that's good. They'll have to like run around or something, but I have uphill advantage. You can see here the veterancy is making a big deal as well. Means I am crossing a river though. But I'm still 19 combat strength at their 8th, which should let me kill them in 1 turn. If I use my scout as well. Now that was crossing a river. It's because the river is running through this tile. That's interesting. That counts that as crossing a river. I'm curious if they'll get the river crossing penalty for attacking me as well. Let's bring our scout into the fray. Or sorry, this is my big spuds. I get another kill with them. Yeah, that combat veterancy is super helpful because it means you take less damage and you do more damage. Because it seems like the only sort of mechanic in this game that matters for unit strength is their combat strength. That like dictates pretty much everything. Which I kind of appreciate. I feel like the simpler a system is, like, the easier it is to grasp. Like, there are, like, you know, I mean, there's downsides, right? And that it can be too simple and it's like a little bit too one-dimensional and it's kind of, there can be exploits and stuff like that, but so far I'm appreciating it. Okay, so since we're locked into science mode, we're actually not growing at all in this city as well. But I mean, we're generating an absolutely stupid amount of science, which is great regardless. It's actually more efficient to work industry and convert it into science than to work science slots. So we'll just work industry in Babylon. Now my city of Borsippa, I want to convert this, but I gotta wait a turn. Yeah. Alright, nice. We just unlocked Standing Army, which gives me access to City Watch. That gives me +3 stability on castles. I haven't actually talked about castles. It also gives me access to Iron and Swordsman. Now, out of curiosity, did we actually bump into any Iron? If I zoom out a little bit. Is that Iron right there? No, it's marble. Okay, that's a luxury. There's more copper. And there's some pearls in the ocean as well, it looks like. But yeah, this sort of attaching... Wait, why can't I attach you? Excuse me? Sir? You're built up. Okay. It's 250 to convert. Why can't I attach here? Oh, I can. It was just grayed out for some reason. So now Borsippa occupies 2 territories, you can see here. And that means any infrastructure that scales off territories will just be better in here. For example, Pottery Workshop gives me 4 industry per number of territories. That's 8 industry for a single turn of production. Seems actually pretty good. I might actually... we'll just buy this out. Get it done. And buy this out too. So now we have a ton of production in this city. 66, in fact. If I click on the city, you can see the tiles that it's working. If I disable this. I love that it like highlights exactly what tiles the city's actually working so that you can make decisions about, okay, where do I expand next? So for example, like it might be a good idea for me to expand my maker's quarter to here, but then there's kind of one of the exploitation tiles isn't really worth it. So then that might tell me that I want to expand into this area. So I find my nearest unit and I kind of play around with the outpost thing and I can look around where the yields are. So if I just pop in here, like, oh, maybe it would be good to pick up this crater. Maybe it would be good to pick up that river with the outpost. I really enjoy the sort of puzzle that the game presents with the whole territory and city system. I know you're not supposed to take this as like representative of the final product, but like for me personally, if this is like even remotely representative of the quality that we're going to see with the final product, it has me very, very excited. There's a couple of little things I don't like that I talked about, like chopping forests feels really underwhelming. If I go in here and cut forest, you could see it'll take 3 turns and this will become dry grass and it'll get me 10 production. Like 10 production, like not trying to be funny, but I shit out 10 production 6 times a turn. So 3 turns to get 10 production, that doesn't feel very good to me. And I'd like to see that maybe re-examined. The whole chopping mechanic could be powerful and interesting, but right now it just isn't. At least to me, right? All right, cool. Oh, so we can unlock Conquest. Controlling new conquered lands requires more effort than one might think. Logistical supply. So this will give me... so we can capture outposts, and outpost assimilations cost 10% less, so you can grow your cities quite a bit bigger. Also can get heavy cavalry. Oh, I still haven't talked about castles. So castles are super interesting in the sense that, like, let's say we have a choke point that we really want to control. Like, let's see if I can find a good choke point. Like right here. Let's say this was the only bridge that an enemy unit could take to get into my territory. I could plop a castle right here. And not only will this give me the benefits of being a castle, right? It'll give me the fortification and it'll give me the combat strength for units adjacent to the district. It also acts as a place that I can actually spawn units. So as my empire gets like bigger, like let's say, oh man, I can't really deal with the fact that my units are spawning over here in my capital. I need like a unit spawn on the front line. I can build a castle like up here and that'll provide defensive benefits and also, you know, adjacency and all that sort of jazz. It's a really, really cool mechanic. For the sake of it, I'll go ahead and build a castle over here on this hill to guard these 2 passes, right? Because a unit here would be able to very easily defend these passes. Actually, I found an even better spot for the castle. If I pop it right here, it controls all of these tiles pathways into my empire, although I don't really need the spawning function of it, but I can at least show it off. I'm still making a stupid amount of science, so I may as well finish off these 1-turn techs while I can. Is irrigation, lovely. We talked about irrigation earlier. And I may as well grab writing. This will give me +1 science per researcher, money, and the market quarter. Oh, that auto-finished. I guess I had enough overflow science to finish that instantly. Well, that unlocked hydrology, which is artificial reservoirs. It gives me 3 farmer slots and +1 food on exploitation. That seems really, really powerful. It's like the upgrade to the irrigation. We also get watermill, which gives me extra worker slots for industry and +1 industry on rivers. And we also get the aqueduct, which is +2 stability per number of territories, which I think is an upgrade to the other one that you can get. Sailing is cool, coastal water. Let's pick up sailing. Now, I don't think this city will actually, because the city is in science mode, it actually won't build this castle until I disable this next turn, but that's not a big deal. Borsippa, on the other hand, is ready to start building. We have regular growth in here. Would be good to get a bit of growth. Let's build a harbour so we can show off that. Ooh, yeah. Especially if I build a harbour. I'd like to build one near this as well. But if I build it near this reef, you can see it's getting me science and food, which is super great. Oh, I can upgrade this unit as well. I can upgrade it to a swordsman. Can it be done as the current position is invalid? Let's pull that guy back then. We'll pull back my swordsman and get him upgraded so that he can fulfill his true destiny. Or do I actually have the resources for swordsman? It's an important question. I do not have iron. No, I don't. I can, however, get these Sabu Sakasti that I will try and grab. I found a bunch of deer in this unexplored area. And I think, as far as I know, in areas that you've already explored, new stuff can like reappear, so it is worth it to go back over some of your old territory that you've already explored. There's fishmongers and the pentaconter. Let's go ahead and disable science mode. It will significantly limit this, but that's not a big deal. I can, if I want to, like just work a ton of these science slots and get a bunch of food out of that, but I'm already in super growth, so that doesn't seem like super worth it. I feel like gold or production right now is like super valuable to my empire. Ooh, looks like I rolled poorly on the flood event. And my city is going to suffer some serious penalties for 10 turns. I mean, that's what you get, right, for tempting fate. I feel like being able to attack from range. Oh, by the way, when you're like looking at a battle, you can just like click off the battle and go deal with other stuff. And the battle will continue without your like interference. Which I find really, really interesting. So it's like, oh, I got caught into a battle, but I need to go do something like really, really quick, like right now. You can totally just like walk away from the battle, which is a system that I super appreciate. There's so many like little things about playing this so far that I found myself just kind of oohing and ahhing at. I'm really enjoying. Let's pick up horsemanship. I don't think I can pick up any text without running science mode anymore. I do kind of wish that this was just like an extra 10, 20 turns. I would feel like I would get a little bit more insight into the game. But I'm kind of accepting that this is the way that it is. It is supposed to be just like a little taste of the game to help them gather a little bit of feedback about specific things. But there's horsemanship. We can build scout cavalry if we have access to a horse resource. And, ooh, I could also get the wheel, which will put roads between my cities and outposts, which is cool, which will set the movement cost. It'll also give me access to the chariot. You can see I have already little roads. Also, can we talk about the attention to detail? Like if I zoom in here, you can see I have like little wildlife running around my town and lions and stuff. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see there's like lions roaming here, buffalo moving around in herds. I really, really, really appreciate the attention to detail that they've gone to like really make the game world feel sort of alive. You could like, I mean, I'm pretty zoomed out, but you can still kind of just barely see little speckles, a few pixels of animals moving around. And you're like, oh, what's that? You can zoom in. You can see birds flying around the mouth of a river. Like, I really do have to say, this is a gorgeous game. This impression of it has left me very, very happy so far. I am curious though, I haven't met other civs, and I would like to do that before the game is out. Or like, before the game is done, if you get me. I'm going to try and run around and see if I can find them. I do have a scout in this area. Do a bit of ransacking on the old sanctuaries. I have been cutting out a little bit of the footage, so you guys don't have to watch all the boring stuff. Although I guess, because it's like a brand new, fresh experience, not everything is boring. Let's grab ourselves a boat. And you can see here, if I had 2 harbors, I would be able to choose between my harbors to show you which one is the harbor that I'm actually going to spawn the boat from. I guess I do have time to technically show you that, don't I? So I pop another harbor down there. But I love the way the exploitation looks. Like, so for example, like here is my city, one of my districts, my, oh God, I keep forgetting their name. Is it exploitation? Expansion, my extension. So I have an extension here. You can see that it's like working the adjacent tiles. You can see like little lumber mills going on in here. There's like a little mine in here, more lumber mills, and then farms as well. If I go over to like my farming area, you can see there's just a bunch of farms, little villages and stuff, and then like the main quarter. I really do like how the game visually tells you all the information in a way that is a little bit more in your face than I think Endless Legends did. All right, let's purchase that harbor, just so I can show you. So you can see here, and this is the same with the castles. I'll show you that with the castles too. I can pick where I spawn my boat. So theoretically, I could like claim all this coastline in a single city, and then have like harbors all along, feeding it, and then choose where I spawn my things. Actually, these harbors are giving me a ton of food. But yeah, let's get ourselves a boat and kind of just show off a little bit of the boat mechanics. I'm not going to get to show you too much more, but I am trying to make the most of this. All right, cool. So we found some volunteers. Let's put these guys on auto explore as well. See if we can't reveal more about the world. Auto explore for me, please. Oh, we found another natural wonder. This looks like the Zhangji Dangxi or something. It's in Civ 6 at the very least. And I like that the game is kind of like, if you don't want to micro your units, click the auto explore button. They'll get you a little bit of rewards and you'll be fine. Let's go ahead and purchase the castle to finish that, and then we'll buy a, where is he? This unique unit that's ours. We show off those unit models and stuff like that. Right, there's the wheel, which is cool. That, I think, has upgraded the roads between my cities, and now my units should be able to traverse the terrain between my cities much easier. I do kind of wish there was like one extra chunk of road right here. But I guess it is trying to link up like the outposts themselves. We get access to trade expeditions now, which will give me +3 money on city center. It's like a taxation infrastructure. Oh, and a transport galley as well. And access to philosophy. That gives me an extra administrator. Oh, so you do unlock more administrators from the tech tree, and that'll kind of allow you to expand easier. You can actually still expand without administrators. It's just slightly less efficient. Which I appreciate soft limits on expansion rather than like hard limits a little bit more. So I could spend 100 and get 2 population in Borsippa. I could deny the sins of the father and get +5 money, or restrict and get 1 population. I like the idea of getting 1 pop for free that I can then like chop stuff out with. We're finding curiosities all over the map with all these auto explorers, which is great. And if I come into Babylon now, you can see here, I can do a very similar thing that I can do with the boats. I can choose to spawn my units in the castle or inside the city. I'll spawn it inside the castle just so you can see how that works. Set this galley to auto-explore. Now, the boat mechanics, as far as I know, early game boats have the coastal ship modifier, which means they're destroyed if they spend more than 1 turn inside deep water. So they're definitely going to be sticking to these. You can see there's actually a difference between the coastal water right here and then the deep water, the ocean. Surprised I haven't found whatever other player is in this game, considering I have almost the entire map explored. They're probably like parked somewhere off in the corner with their AI disabled, if they are even in the game. This could be just like a single player scenario. So my capital built that unit. This is the, I don't know how to say this, the Sabu Sakasti, which is like a spear unit, I think. And it's relatively strong, 22 combat strength. If we compare that to, for example, the swordsman, it's slightly weaker than it, but it only requires copper, I think. Yeah, so it's ever so slightly weaker, but it only requires copper. It's like on par with a unit that is more advanced, I feel like. Plus it gets defense. So this definitely feels like the Babylon Civ feels like very turtly, with the unit that only takes copper, that's almost as strong as units that require iron. And then it has like a bonus defense when it's standing on extension. So it seems very turtly and growth and science focused, which I really like. I enjoy that. Definitely feels very thematic. I'm trying to think what I could do in the last 3 turns here that would be interesting for you guys. I guess I could build watchtowers and show you how that upgrades the fort with extra vision, although I'm not really sure that's gonna really be visible here when I have units in the area. But yeah, it gives you detection range, it gives you combat strength for units adjacent to your districts, which is really, really cool. But there's not much left on this, so I'll just hammer through these turns so you can kind of see the ending. Little explorer happening. A little bit more exploring. So I didn't actually find whoever the hell is in this game, which is like mildly disappointing. But I did find a couple of natural wonders, which is cool. There's the Vinasunda Vinakunda, which gives you +3 industry on its tiles, but also gives you influence, stability, and money because it's a natural wonder. I do really like how the map looks and how seamlessly it zooms between these 2 layers. Very, very impressed with the game so far. And I'm really happy that I'm able to like actually bring you guys some gameplay. But let's go ahead and end turn and leave it at that. That's it. There we go. You get a little outro video.
Hi, it's me again, back to say just a few words. First and most obviously, thank you for playing. We really hope you enjoyed it. Again, keep in mind that this is just a glimpse of what the full game will have to offer. The scenario you just played was specifically designed for OpenDev. Now, if you have time, we would really appreciate hearing your feedback. The game designers have put together a list of questions that would help us make Humankind the very best historical strategy game. If you're interested in hearing more about this, come join the community on Games Together. Thanks again for playing, and thank you for leaving your mark on Humankind.
All right, brilliant. That is it. We got 5 territories, 8 population, 10 units, 14 technologies, 11 extensions. If any of you guys do better than me, let me know. But that's it. I'm going to go ahead and give them some more feedback. I already gave them feedback on my first game. I kind of played through it really quickly. But I hope you guys enjoyed this first little encounter of the first scenario in the Humankind Open Dev thing. Now, do keep in mind, again, I have to stress this, this is just like a little slice of the full game. So don't take it as fully representative of the final product, but I would say it's very impressive if it is at all representative of the final product. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!